Have you ever lived out of your home country? How did it change you? On today's video, I'm going to share with you how China changed me. Stay tuned. So thanks once again for joining me. And as I said, I'm going to share with you today on how China has changed me and in a way saved me. So I know that sounds a little bit dramatic, but it's actually true. So just to give you a bit of a backstory, Dwayne and I met in 1986 when I was in London and did the usual 2-year thing. In 1988 we came back from the UK and we got married. Then we fell into the normal social expectation, I guess, of buying a home, getting a good job, building a family, all that sort of stuff. But it was in 2010 where we kind of looked at each other. So 22 years later, we looked at each other, and because things hadn't kind of gone into like the social expectation, we didn't have children, we sort of thought, what are we doing? What have we actually achieved? Now, don't get me wrong, we have a fantastic marriage, and I am eternally grateful for how wonderful Dwayne is and what a great relationship we have. But we both felt that there was something missing. We both felt that there was more to life. And so that kind of moved us to step out of our comfort zones and travel. And one of the tours that we did in 2011, we had a 3-week trip to China. And I can honestly say that within the first couple of days, we realized that, wow, this place has something that we've never experienced. It had something quite unique that we could all learn from. So, cut a long story short, how has China changed me and in a way saved me, which I'll explain to you. First of all, it really gave me the awareness of how important non-verbal communication is. Now, when I say non-verbal communication, for those that aren't really aware of it, it's your body language, it's your gestures, it's your facial expressions, it's your way that you actually communicate without saying anything. So think about how you actually relate to a young child who doesn't have any language and the energy that you're putting out. Now, I've had benefit for that because I worked with under twos for about 25, 30 years of my time in early childhood in Australia. So I was acutely aware of the benefits of nonverbal communication. But it's not until you actually live in a country and work in a country where you actually realize the benefit of nonverbal communication. And to me, it was such an eye-opener. It made me acutely aware of what am I actually saying without saying a word. If someone tried to engage with me, and as a foreigner, they often did, and they still do. What am I actually saying when I say ting budong, which is, I don't understand? Am I being dismissive in that? Am I saying, oh, ting budong, sorry, ting budong? Am I showing empathy? Am I showing a connectedness of, I would really like to speak with you, but I can't. I don't have the language. So it really did make me acutely aware, especially working with kids in kindergartens and all that sort of stuff, especially when the kids were coming in and they didn't speak any English at all. So it's of vital importance. So, now that we haven't worked in kindergartens for quite a while here in China, but I see it every day. I see it with the people in this community, and the people in this community, they're an older generation, probably a little bit older than us, and they're intrigued by us. And as much as we can't speak to each other, we still show respect and that mutual non-communication. And I can honestly say that because in the lift or just walking around here now, trying to find a location that wasn't too windblown and didn't have them out playing mahjong or something where I was by myself. I was getting waved at. I was getting the nod, or I was getting the ni hao, and it was a really nice way to validate the fact that the non-verbal communication that we've been so aware of has actually paying off. So the next point that it's really, what I've really learned is to hone my observational skills. What I mean by that is that, you know, you can go into a situation like the other day, we were sitting down having a coffee and there was a little guy and he must have walked past us about half a dozen times. He was about 8 or 9 years old. And we kind of realized that, this is what they do. This is what the kids do. They kind of, or people in general, not just the kids, they kind of walk past you and then they go back and they look at you and they walk past you and they go back. Now, this is where the non-verbal communication obviously comes in, and you could choose to cut them off, by picking up your phone or, putting your shoulder the wrong way. But it really did hone my observational skills to the fact that, what is this little one wanting to do? What is the situation here? What is his mum? Like, and I looked for his mum or his dad, and his mum was sort of standing there kind of in the distance, but I knew she was looking to see what was happening. And so I was looking at this situation and I said to Dwayne, I really think we need to, engage with this little guy. Think about how much courage and guts it would take for you or anyone, let alone a 8 or 9 year old little one, to walk up to you and want to engage when they know in the back of their mind that they don't really have the language to carry it off. But from an observational perspective, I sort of thought, wow, I really do need to look at this and really embrace this and really empower this little guy to think, wow, you're doing a great thing. So I could talk about that sort of stuff for ages, but that was one thing. It really does increase your observational skills. And when you speak less and observe more, you actually become very reflective in yourself. And anyway, I could talk about it for ages. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. I have really had increased patience. I've really had to learn to be more patient, not only with others, but mainly with myself. I had to become so much more patient with myself because, one, I didn't speak the language. Two, I found it really hard to actually speak the language. As much as I tried numerous times, oh yeah, I'm going to go and learn, blah, blah, blah. I had to really be patient with myself and think, well, you're really not getting it. It's really not something that you can do. So I've had to look at things from that perspective because I can be very impatient with myself. And so self-patience was good, but also patience with that around me. I looked at things sometimes, like as I mentioned in the last video, when someone spits on the ground, or the bicycles on the road, or they're at a coffee place and they don't put their cups in a bin that's 2 meters away, 2 feet away from them. I've had to kind of stop myself from being critical and being judgmental and think, that's their culture. So be patient, pull your head in. You look at it from an act, not react perspective. That's what I've learned. I've learned to look at something that I've gone, oh, and then thought, okay, do I pull your head in? Is it cultural? Are you acting or are you reacting? And that was something that was really a valuable lesson for me to learn. And it's one of those ones that keep reoccurring, depending on your mood sometimes. Sometimes I just think, ah. And, they're the days that I probably should stay at home, to be honest. But you also, another point is you have to develop a bit of a thick skin. And here I had to really develop a thick skin. And let me explain that to you. What I mean by a thick skin is that I can be and have been in the past very, very sensitive, especially to certain topics or subjects about myself, like my weight, not having kids, things like that. And one of the first questions that everyone always asks us is that, where are your kids? And, well, when you say, oh, I don't have any children, why? And there was a situation way back when, at the beginning, maybe around 2012, when that was actually very, very confronting. And there was a conversation that I won't go into here now, but it was quite direct and very personal for someone that didn't really know me. And it really made me think, Di, you've got to toughen up, because you have to understand that this is cultural. Having children here is cultural. It's, you know, the family unit is so important here. The next generation supports the generation before and helps the generation, helps the family move forward. You know, they all work together. It's like a collective. It's not an individual thing. So if you don't have children, how are you going to support your family? What are your grandparents going to do? Because the grandparents, in a lot of situations, look after their grandchildren. So I can understand it from that perspective. So I've had to develop a thick skin, and I think I've mastered it now. I just say, look, I didn't have any children. It's my fault. And that kind of, you know, cuts the conversation down. So also what I've learned is to be humble. Now, this is a big one for me, because it's something that I've always said to people, especially when we were training new teachers here. I had to learn to be humble to the point where in Australia, and this is not looking down on Australia at all. It's when I was in Australia, I was one of many. Here, as I said in the last video, you do feel special, and you will get noticed, and you are the focus, and you are sought after, and you are the one that they want to have a photo with or want to talk to, or that engagement has made them feel so much better. And that can give you a massive big head, to be honest. You can become very big-headed, very dismissive, very I am the greatest. We've seen it. And, you know, there are times when it's easy to slip into that. So I've really learnt to be humble, to be respectful of the fact that you're in their country. You chose to come to their country, and they're showing you respect. So show it back. Everything that you give out comes back to you some way, shape, or form. So, you know, being humble and showing humility was something that was a valuable lesson for me to learn. So with that, you have to focus on being your best self. And that has been a really nice aspect of being here in China and being away from your home country, because becoming inwardly focused and realizing that you do have some shortcomings and you do have some personality traits that you really need to have a bit of a attitudinal adjustment, or it has done that for me. So I'm eternally thankful and grateful for that experience. Let me just have a look at my list, because I've got a lot. I've understood that the culture of the Chinese people are very different to that of Australian culture. And they take responsibility for themselves and for their job, for their children, for how they are perceived. So we've had to do that too. Just because we might be seeming like, you know, the new kid on the block, the special person because you're foreign, it doesn't give me the right to think that they're going to fall at my feet and give me everything. So I had to be take responsibility for my actions, for how I was being perceived. So being a foreigner here is great. I've learnt that. You do get a lot of respect. You do get a lot of focus, and it's great for your self-esteem, as I mentioned in the last video. It's taught me so much to be respectful, to be kind, to be open, to show some objectivity, to show empathy, and to be accountable for my actions. And step out. Another big one for me was stepping out of my shyness. I wouldn't say I was an introvert, but at home I kind of had many things that I was feeling a little bit lacking in. But here it's really made me aware that every time I step out of my door, I could be, and more than likely will be, a focus at some point in the day. So it's kind of like you put yourself, sometimes I think to myself, okay, game face on, which to me is an indication to me to don't be robotic. Don't see the day in the same way that you would without having any kind of like, it's kind of like the lights are on but no one's home. That's how I kind of put it. So turn the lights on and be present. And with that, I put into my head, game face on. There may be an opportunity or a situation where you do have to perform. And so I've learned that. I've learned to come out of my robotic self. And I think, thinking about my life in Australia, I could very much have said that. You get up, you have breakfast, you go to work, you do your job, you come home, you make dinner, you may do some sport or whatever, but you watch TV and you go to bed, or you watch YouTube or whatever. And you get up next day and you do the same thing. But what I've learnt is that doesn't happen for me. It doesn't happen for me because I'm in a country where I am in the minority. And being in the minority, you do have to be aware that you're going to be a focus. So with that, you also need to realize, don't take yourself too seriously. Seriously, you can't take yourself too seriously. You will make mistakes. And that's okay. You will embarrass yourself numerous times. I mean, I've had a situation when I was teaching in Hong Kong where I stepped out of my comfort zone and I actually spoke a couple of words in Cantonese. And because I didn't use the tone correctly, because there's 9 tones to the language in Hong Kong, like Cantonese, and 4 here with Mandarin, I didn't use the tone correctly, and I actually said something that sent a gasp through the whole lot of Hong Kong staff that were there at the time. And because the tone that I used was, I actually said about a male genitalia. So yeah, it was a little bit, I had to kind of really step out of my kind of like, oh my gosh moment and think, okay, it was just a mistake. Don't take yourself too seriously. You got to embarrass yourself. There have been times when there's been expectations on you as a foreigner to be able to perform on cue. Like a situation at one of the first schools that we were at in Yinda, I was the only Western female that city had ever seen. So Yinda at the time, this was 2011, had a population of 1 million. So when you are the one in 1 million, you do stand out. And with that came the expectation that I could perform on cue. There was a situation one day when I went into the centre that I was working at, and I was working with kids under 3. You might have seen one of my other videos of me dancing with them. Beautiful centre, beautiful kids. And they said, okay, Teacher Day, come with us. And so we traipsed some of these kids, about 20 of them under 3s. Some of them were young babies that we had to carry downstairs. And they said, we're going down to the footpath, to the sidewalk. I thought, oh, this is interesting, where are we going? And we actually sat on the sidewalk. Well, they put some mats down and they said, okay, Teacher Day, can you sing? Now, I did notice there was a boombox there, so I figured I'd be doing something. And it was an amazing experience for me because I was like, are you kidding me? what I can't do this on the road. I can sing in a classroom. I can, do that sort of stuff. But out on the street, are you joking? And honestly, the footpath or the sidewalk was full of children, and the cars were just going by, and they were bimping and they were cheering, and there were people just standing there clapping. And the funny thing was that I had laryngitis, so when I was singing Wheels on the Bus, some of the words were coming out, some of them weren't. But the encouragement that those people gave me, it's like, just show up and do it. And it's a real can-do attitude. And that's what another thing that I really learnt, is that these guys, they don't judge you for not doing it perfectly. They respect the fact that you actually showed up and you tried. And so that was really an interesting situation. Another interesting situation there as well was that, I turned the corner riding up to school one day, and there was a big billboard, and, it was me in the middle of the billboard. I didn't know it was going up. I didn't know that the photo that we'd taken was for that. And instead of getting kind of like, oh, they didn't ask permission type thing, I went, oh my gosh. And so you do have to step out of your comfort zone. I've learnt to not take myself too seriously. I've learnt to roll with the punches, I guess. And in China, there's a saying that a lot of foreigners will say, it's the 11th hour change. I've always thought of this, that you're going along, you're doing this performance, you got to do something. Then at the 11th hour, oh no, we're going this way. And so I've learnt to be adaptable. I've learnt to roll with it. And that's been so refreshing in this experience, because it's not only with the teaching, it's in daily life. You see it. You might go and order some food and you think that's what you're getting, but when it shows up, it's something different. And you're like, well, just roll with it. So let's have a look what else. I've learnt to find the joy in the unpredictability of life. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but it's not. It's like when you sit back and you look at what you've done in the day, the interactions that you may have had, the mistakes you may have made, the bloopers that you've done when you've tried to speak something, just the smiles that you've been given, it really does make you look at the joy. And that's a really big thing for me. I found that there's so much joy that I've actually found in living in China and living out of my regular life in Australia. So, in closing, I have two major things that have impacted me. And it's one thing that my mum told me many years ago, and it plays on my mind almost every day that I'm here. And the other one is, it's not what you've got. It's not that I can speak English, so therefore, I might be beneficial to somebody. It's not that I might have, the biggest house or the most money or the best job or, my Instagram account or my YouTube or my Facebook page has so many followers. It's how you make someone feel. And if at the end of the day, I can sit back and I can think, how much of an impact did I make to people today, and how much of an impact did I make on myself? How did I make myself feel today, and how did I make other people feel? That's what's important in my life. And that's what being here in China has taught me, is to the benefit and the value of how you make someone feel. Just with your smile, just with taking out the translator and having that conversation with somebody because they're interested, So it's finding the joy and being accountable and how you made someone feel. The other thing is something that my mum told me when I was about 10. And I remember, as I said to you before, I was a bit of a shy kid, always had issues about weight, whatever. But my mum said to me one day when I was having probably a bit of a meltdown, a bit of a shy moment, She said, Di, did anyone say anything nice to you today? And I thought, this is a bit of a strange question. And I'd just been to like physical culture, which was my favorite thing to do. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, one person said it, but believe me, 10 people will think it, but never say it. So be that one person. And that made the most incredible impact on me. And I've repeated that story so many times in my life. And it's really made me think about, if I see someone doing something that I think is, wow, that's really amazing. Or, you know, I really like that food that you cooked me, or you're so kind, or anything. The braveness, the courage, the guts that these little kids and these people, just adults, have when they want to engage with you. I will say to them, wow, that was so amazing that you found the courage, that you stepped up and you came and spoke to me. So in closing, thanks so much for listening. And I will continue to be that one person that says thank you. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for all your lovely comments from the last video and all the new subscribers. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it's been interesting for you. And I look forward to sharing with you some more about daily life here in China. And we do have another video coming out in the next day or so about how to rent an apartment. We've had so many questions about that, and our apartment video is still going off. I think it's up to around about 195,000 views now. So we'll show you how to rent an apartment. But thanks once again. Like, share, subscribe if you feel so inclined. And thanks so much. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.